Hey guys, welcome back. I had to eat something real quick. Had some had some pizza, Pagliacci's pizza. If you're in Seattle, check it out. It's a little pricey, but it's really good. You can also get it by the slice, so that makes it a little cheaper. They got good pizza. We usually do that every other week. So that's what we did tonight. I used to get large pizzas. Now I get like small pizzas, and I feel like I'm less stuffed. Because when the large pizzas is like, oh, I'm so full, and then I can't eat the gelato that I also ordered. So anyway, guys, I thought I'd do something different this week with the podcast because, normally we do the podcast. I talk about, some stuff going on in my life. Some stuff I talk about, movies or TV shows I watched and all that. And we'll get back to that next time. So finishing up a couple of the shows. I did finish Only Murders in the Building, season 3. So I'm looking forward to season 4, which they just announced. And I'm still working through a couple other shows. I got to catch up on Billions. I'm behind it in a couple of weeks. But there's other shows, too, that I have to watch. So, anyway, not important. Because this podcast is not about that. This podcast is about Night Court. Love that theme song. So, anyway, I know not the Night Court that Peacock is doing, because from what I've heard, it's not very good outside of John Larroquette. I applaud I think that's a more... just to get before I get into Night Court here, it feels like there's doing a lot of let's bring that show back. It's kind of like they're doing movies for a long time and still doing movies. Let's remake that shit. And it is kind of bringing back the legacy character. They do it in horror movies a lot, like they did with the Halloween trilogy and The Exorcist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Just like bring back a legacy character, which is okay if it's done well. But it feels like Frasier's coming back. We have. It's a follow-up. It's not the exact same show, but it's his next stage. It could be good. It could be bad. We'll see. I'll give it a watch. But the Connors and the Roseanne thing before the whole Roseanne blowout. But that's coming back. They brought back they were talking about Who's the Boss coming back with him and Samantha. There's, and then we got the Night Court thing. And there's so many of these shows they just keep bringing back. But I can't honestly say. I think it brought Man and P.I. back, but it wasn't Tom Selleck. It was somebody else. Quantum Leap. There's just I haven't seen either Man and P.I. or Quantum Leap. Are they good? I don't know. But most of these, they're not. Especially the sitcoms. Are they really that good? I've talked about the Connors before. It's just not funny. It's just all depressing all the time, and it's just this isn't funny. You're supposed to be a sitcom. Please let me laugh. But from what I heard about Night Court, it's really just the bailiff is trying too hard to be Marsha Warfield, but not quite living up to it. I like the girl that's the judge, but the thing is, as much as she wants to be Harry's daughter, she doesn't have his personality. And I think that's what I was noticing when I was watching the original show, because I watched it. What I did is I got Freevee through Amazon, Freevee connection, so you can watch TV shows with commercials. Which, sucks to have commercials, but hey, it's free. So free is good. And I'd always wanted to get Night Court on DVD, but they only were selling the first season one time, and then I never saw the rest of the seasons come out for some reason. I think they eventually put it all into one thing, so I may still get that someday. But now as far as the show goes as well, the first couple seasons where they were still kind of finding their footing, like a lot of shows. Cheers is the same way, Seinfeld. But once I think Marky Post joins the cast, from then on, I think it really gets good. But it was still decent. The first couple seasons still had some good moments and stuff in them. And of course, the originals, you had the only 3 original characters that started were Bull, Richard Mole, John Larroquette, Dan Fielding, and Harry Anderson, Judge Harry T. Stone. Which is why I'm wearing this hat, because he wore similar hats to that sometimes when he wasn't on the bench. So the first 3 seasons we have that, and we have there's a black lady that's the other public defender. That's what it is. Yeah, she's a public defender the first time, I think, first season, I believe, and then she gets replaced by Ellen Foley, this blonde girl. Karen Austin was the original clerk, but then I think she actually had something with Bell's palsy or something like that. And she got replaced for reasons like that. She couldn't be on camera or something that kind of destroyed her career. It's kind of sad. I really felt like that was that was really emotional and connected there, Adam. Yeah, really sad. Yeah, I ended your career. Yeah, real sad. Yeah, pretty sad. there's a commercial that played through Phoebe, and it's this guy called Patriotic Kenny or something like that. I guess there's some guy, he's on TikTok or something, this old guy, and he's like Patriotic Kenny, and he like I guess his wheelchair thing or his like wheel cart thing broke down or whatever. And the woman on the thing's like, "How'd that make you feel?" And he's like, "Pretty sad." And, but like when he said the way he says it, it's just like, "You really sound sad." Let me tell you, I'm totally believing your sadness there. But like, yeah, but yeah, that's fine. But yeah, that there was that commercial, and there's this one where this couple's trying to take a picture on their phone, and the eagle takes their phone, and then they chase it down. Yeah, that's believable. You're not catching a freaking eagle. Your phone is gone, lady. But anyway, but yeah, no. But as I said, the cast changes happened, and then of course Selma Diamond, who was the older bailiff, who was very funny, and she's had a career for a long time before that. Great comedian. And then she passes away, which is a big plot point of, I think it's season 4 is when she's passed on. And Bull really reacts to it, and there's some good dramatic acting from Richard Mole. And then, of course, they replace her with Flo, another older lady. She's only on for a season, and then she dies. So they're like, maybe we should go younger. And that's when Marsha Warfield comes in season 5, I think. Yeah. And it went for 9 seasons, actually. But interesting about Night Court is like, yeah, I think I've realized while I was watching it is that, yes, you're going to look at some of it and be like, okay, that's dated. Like, you know, there's jokes of men in dresses and, you know, things like that. There's jokes about, you know, that trans people would find very problematic. And fair enough. I took it as it was the times. It was the 80s. That was an easy joke, not saying it's right or wrong. I mostly didn't laugh at those parts. I was just like, okay, yeah, that was funny at the time. Now it's kind of like, you know, it's one of those things where do you feel comfortable laughing at stuff now that would be offensive by today's standards? That's totally up to you. Maybe it doesn't. I still enjoyed the show though. And let me tell you about Night Court. What's great about Night Court is that like there's a lot of silly humor, but there's also a lot of heart to it. And I think that's what people have to understand is like you can pick out little problematic things here and there of like, ooh, Dan Fielding's character, I think, you know, is a bit problematic for sure. But which is why I think they try to change him a bit in the later seasons and in the reboot. But yeah, but at the same time, if you take it for a product of its time, it's fine. And I also realized too, like I always grew up with my dad, and my dad was always big on telling Hague originals, as he called them, jokes that he would come up with, and he also would do a lot of puns, you know, the dad jokes as they call them, and so I've always been just like that. I'll be like make something out of a pun, you know, and annoy my wife, but sometimes she laughs, but like, and I have other friends that I do puns with and stuff like that, but like, and I realized all this time I'm like I would always kind of do this kind of face where I'd be like get it, you know, and I realized where I got that from. It wasn't from my dad. It was from Harry Anderson, because that's what he would do. Like there's one where he's just like, I'm Harry, but aren't we all? You know, that's why I did that with the picture. So I get unbeknownst to myself, like growing up watching Night Court as a kid, I had no idea that I took so much from Harry Anderson. So thank you, Harry. My wife thanks you. Anyway, but no, I think what's great about it is it was really just a product of its time, but like there's still a lot of heart. And it's interesting when you hear about like Richard Mole didn't get along with Harry Anderson very much because Harry Anderson was more of a comedian and he was more of a classic actor, I guess, which is it never shows in the show, you know, at least, you know, the professionalism and all that in the shows. And the thing is, Harry Anderson actually has some really good dramatic moments in the show that are really heartfelt and like are believable and stuff. So it doesn't come off like I'm a comedian and I'm acting, you know. It feels like he actually gives his all. And so it's a shame that they didn't get along and stuff like that. But it's interesting also watching the show and like watching the change in hairstyles, because Harry Anderson starts off with a pretty reasonably short cut, and then his hair kind of grows out a little longer. And he also starts wearing glasses the last couple seasons, which I assume was probably something to do with maybe he just needed glasses, you know. That's happened on Homicide with Bayless. He didn't wear glasses at first, but he started having headaches, so he had to get glasses. So he wore glasses after that. So I assume that's probably a similar thing with Harry. But yeah, it's interesting to watch the hairstyles because, man, poor Marky Post, man. That those first couple seasons with that kind of mullet type of haircut, it's like she's an attractive woman, but like, wow, wow, that hairdo. That was such a product of the 80s. But yeah, the Marky Post is probably one of my first crushes too. Like I said, I've been attracted to women with other hair colors, but I've always been blondes. It was like Marky Post and Kate Capshaw and Temple of Doom, Elizabeth Shue, and Karate Kid. Those are big three, I'd say, from as a kid. Elizabeth Shue, man, she still looks good. Anyway, yes. My wife knows all about my crush for Elizabeth Shue, so it's all good. She's not gonna be mad. It's all good. She understands. I'm never going to date Elizabeth Shue. I'm happily married, so it's not a big deal. But I can still have that fantasy because everyone's allowed one. Anyway, but yeah, so yeah, it's interesting, and also it's interesting to watch the characters grow because, Dan is a little more like his kind of more perverse sex happens in later seasons too. He doesn't start out that way. Like he's more like intelligent and more focused on like stocks and things like that the first couple of seasons. But yeah, it really made me appreciate just like Harry, like I said before, Harry Anderson, because like, yeah, like I watched Dave's Role too when he was on that a little bit, just because I wanted to support him. Of course, he was in it, But as soon as you look at his movie career, I'm like, oh, he was in a lot of stuff. He was in a TV version of Harvey. I'm like, it's like, wow, he did some other stuff. But like, I was really sad when he died too, because I was like, it didn't hit me quite as hard as John Ritter did, but like, it was still like, oh no, not Harry. Because yeah, I mean, Judge Harry Stone, $50 in time served, Honorable Judge Harry T. Stone presiding. But yeah, and Bull was funny with all the head slaps and the okay. Roz, of course, being like just like this tough woman, but she's still got a good heart to her, and she just is afraid to show it, and you see her connection. I love that one of my favorite episodes of it, obviously, was actually when Roz finds out she's like diabetic, and she starts like kind of freaking out about it, and she's up on the roof and all that, and they're trying to get through to her and all that. She just has to take this this medicine. She has to take this insulin and all that, and they're trying to convince her, but she doesn't want to do it because she wants to just eat how she's always eaten, but she starts hallucinating, and she's starting to go, and then Dan in this moment just like starts acting like he's her father, and because she's hallucinating, she thinks it's him. So he finally, gets her to come down or whatever, and says, "I got an ice cream cone for you," and all that. And I said, "This is not an ice cream cone." And then he said, "Yep, there's no ice cream cone. You're not my father." And then he ends up poking her in the butt with the thing. But before that, she punches him a couple of times or whatever, and he just kind of no sells or whatever. But then like, oh, listen, it's kind of that was just adrenaline, because after adrenaline wears off, then he's like, then he gets all bruised and all that. But it was just a sweet moment, and like she, says thanks for saving my life and all that, and they reference it like in later seasons too, like that the connection between them and all that was always very friendly, which I thought was nice. Dan Fielding had so many more layers than a lot of people gave him credit for, because he easily could have been just like womanizer. He's a womanizer. He has no redeeming qualities, but I think much like Sam Malone, there was more to him than that, and I think his character grows and all that pretty well, and goes through some shit too. And yeah, Harry evolves as well. And yeah, Christine does, of course. And Mac. Oh, Mac. I fucking love Mac. Charles Robinson was great. Like, I loved how his sweaters and all that, He's like, this is one episode where, like, where Christine's trying to be sawed in half by Harry, and and he's just like, she's like, "Oh, let me out of here." He's like, "Will you quit your whining, Christine?" And there's also one where he's trying to convince Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine that he's the Wizard of Oz or whatever, and he's like, the line is like, put him up, and they're all laughing at him after that. But no, he's great. In the episode with Quan Lee or whatever, where she's pregnant and he has the appendicitis or whatever, and poor Roz is getting her, "I'm going to be naked in about 5 seconds." There's just so many great episodes and so many funny moments and all that. Yeah, and it's like where Harry has to quit, or quits, or doesn't on the judges list, or he doesn't get renewed to be a judge. It's also interesting to watch all the guest stars too, because it's like, you'll have guest stars that will appear much like Three's Company used to do, where, hey, I'm another character now. I'm not that character I was before. Because there was one woman who was a judge, who I can't remember for sure, but I think she played the same character on My Two Dads, because she was the judge on there. And there was an episode where she was filling in for Harry because he was out of town. So yeah, that was interesting to see them. Because she also played this lady who had said that she killed her husband, but she didn't really kill him. She just thought she did, But it's interesting how like all of a sudden, hey, I'm this character now. It's like, no, you're not. Plus, it was interesting. I saw Dennis Haysbert. He was the one that Roz dated. That he was Escape Con. It was like, hey, it's the guy from Allstate. It's Pedro Serrano from Major League, and the president on 24. And Candyman himself, Tony Todd, actually appears. It's a very brief part, but like Dan is staying in his office or whatever, and he just pops in and says, Fielding, you better have this office clean. I'm going to kick your ass out. And I was like, oh my God, it's Tony Todd. And so many other actors that showed up on there. I could name Brent Spiner had a recurring role, of course. But it's really good comedy. It's got a lot of heart to it. Now let's talk about the last season, because what had happened was that they had set up, they were told like on the 8th season that they were going to be canceled. So they set up, okay, we're going to wrap this up. But it's interesting if you watch the last episode of season 8, it doesn't really feel like a finale. Like it feels like we didn't have time to come up with a finale, so here's something. But it does have some finality to it, but like it basically ends with Christine and Harry kissing, which had been teased for off and on. And they kiss a lot actually throughout this show, like between Mistletoe and other things like that. But they were never dating. It was weird that they never got together at that time. But like, but then like, yeah, the way it ends, and then Dan is broke because Phil's twin brother basically ripped him off and all that. But like, it's interesting though, because I remember like, yeah, before we get to season 9, let me talk about that in a minute. But like, it's interesting too, because how they had sort of had, Christine hooked up with this guy, Tony, this sleazy cop guy. And they end up, having a baby, but he goes away and all that stuff, and they don't work out too well. And then Harry was dating Mary Cadderett's character, who was like a news reporter and all that. Also was the woman who married Jack Tripper at the end of Three's Company, which is pretty funny. But then she has a storyline that I'm seeing, the way she's written off, is they don't really break up because of any kind of issues. She basically has to leave the state to enter witness relocation program because she witnessed a mob guy, or if she testifies, she has to go away. So that's how she's written off. Is she literally goes to witness protection, and he was going to propose to her and all that. And that was a sad moment. Like I felt bad for Harry, but you can see like they were setting up to like have Harry and Christine get together, but like then all of a sudden after they filmed the last episode, like, oh, by the way, you got another season. So it's like, what? we were done, and they had a nice ending because like at least Christine and Harry kiss, and it's like it feels like this big moment, and like it's finality. Dan being homeless and being a bum was kind of weird, but not a happy ending for him. But like, okay, cool, so we were done, and then like, oh, let's get another season, and nobody really wanted to do it, but they're like, okay. So like literally within the first fucking episode, like they have this Phantom of the Courtroom thing with Dan being the Phantom of the Opera type thing, but like. And then they basically just, him and Christine, just say, oh, we're better as friends. I'm like, what the fuck? After all that shit, all this build-up for years, and they're just going to be friends. What the fuck? So that's just, I think that was more just a writer's like, all right, well, you fucked our plan. But the interesting thing, too, is that Bull gets married to this woman named Wanda. And they were good together. And his mom was, this fisherwoman and all that stuff. And then they have a marriage. It's a nice, great marriage. And Mac films it and all that stuff. And then you never fucking see Wanda again. Or his mother. They get referenced a few times. And then by the last episode, Bull goes away with these old guys to Jupiter. I'm like, what the fuck happened here? What the fuck was this? Was this just a total middle finger to the network? Like, here you go. Bull's abandoning his wife to go to fucking Jupiter with these complete strangers. These aliens. It's like, okay. That's the choice. And then, yeah, Mac goes away to film school. And Dan decides to chase Christine, who's become a senator, I believe. Or something. I think she joins the Senate. Yeah. And then Harry's just going to stay there because he's got a bunch of offers throughout the thing. But so it basically ends with this Harry and Roz still there. And it's just like, well, that's not really the happy ending. I mean, I guess, good for Christine getting the Senate thing so she could go off to do Hearts of Fire with John Ritter the next year. In Washington, by the way. That's on Freeview as well. That's at least the first season is. Billy Bob Thornton was on there. That's how they kind of met, him and John Ritter. But not a bad show, actually. But, yeah, this ain't about Hearts of Fire. It's about Night Court. But, yeah, like I said, guys, just want to give a retrospect on it because, man, if you could rewrite that last season, I think you had to get Christine and Harry together, though. Because it's like, Wings did it, right? Wings got Helen and Joe back together by the end. I didn't like that they split Alex and Brian. Oh, but regardless. They got back together. They got married by the end of the show. They were happily married and all that stuff. And I'm not saying it has to happen every time. Sam didn't end up with Diane or Rebecca, but and cheers. But it's nice when you have, but especially with how much time they put into the Harry Christine thing, to just be well, fuck it. It's just no, we wanted this. This was the whole reason that they wanted to get Marky Post was to be this love interest for Harry. So it's they technically should have been Endgame, and it's just they just nah, fuck it. And then from what I heard, and I can kind of understand why they didn't do this, but from the scene that I saw from the new Night Court is that her dad was Harry Anderson, but her mom was played by Faith Ford or something like that. So he doesn't end up with Christine. Dan didn't end up with Christine. So I can understand not wanting to have two dead parents for this character, but at the same time, it's just does Christine get referenced at all? She was a big part of that court. It's how are you not going to have her at least referenced somehow? Or her son. Why couldn't her son be a character? Maybe that's something they could think about. I don't know. Well, if you're going to continue this, bring her son, a grown-up version of her son. Maybe he can connect with Dan or somebody. I don't know. Just giving them ideas. I guess Marsha Warfield did pop up on a couple, which is cool. But my mom said she couldn't get into it. I haven't seen it. Like I said, I don't have Peacock yet. Anna's working on getting that squared away. But no, guys, I highly recommend if you have Amazon, if you've never seen Night Court, understand that it is somewhat dated in certain humors. And if you can't take that type of humor or you can't accept that joke, it's just if you're gay and, back in SNL, they would use the F word or movies you'd F word. Some people can deal with that and just take, it's a product of its time or whatever, other people can't, and that's fair. Whatever your, feelings are and that's fine. But don't let it ruin the show completely. If those moments, you just kind of, I just tried to brush them aside. Okay, this is product of its time. Let's just let it be. But if you look at it from the show as it is, the original Night Court for 9 seasons was pretty solid. Yeah, it found its footing. It's found its good cast. It was a great cast. John Larroquette's an incredible actor. He had to actually literally take his name off the Emmy list because he kept winning. He's no, please, let somebody else win. Let somebody else get nominated. Take me off of there. And he is an incredible actor, incredible voice actor. It's interesting, too, because, Richard Mole, of course, is tall. But, John Larroquette's, 6'4", and Harry Anderson is, too. So, that's, 3 really tall people. And Marsha Warfield isn't that short, either. So, it's that was a very tall cast. But, yeah, sadly, of course, we've lost Harry Anderson. We've lost Marky Post. We've lost Charles Robinson. So that's at least 3 main cast members. They also had Lizette, who was the court stenographer. She had an interesting kind of way. She would go, ah, before she talked. She'd go, ah, and then she dated Gilbert Gottfried's character. It was kind of interesting. But yeah, I could sit here and talk all day about Night Court, but I won't bore you too long. But anyway, guys, yeah, if you ever get a chance, haven't seen Night Court, or just want to have a revisit for Night Court, guys, the original, go ahead and go on Amazon and get you a freebie thing. And like I said, it's just you watch a couple commercials, but they go by pretty quick, and you're back to the show. But yeah, check it out, guys. Night Court on Amazon. And thank you for watching this Nitro Court retrospective podcast. Like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll be back next week with more stuff. Have a good one.